Hi there. So, because the whole swapping series thing won, I'm swapping series to this one. And tomorrow will be the other one. I'll try to keep it flip-flopping. Or I'll do another episode. I don't know. Matters. I got a friend with me this time. You guys probably know this friend.
Hi.
It's
Hi.
Onyx! We have not talked in a minute, and Onyx was in a call, so I capitalized.
Yeah.
Onyx wrote something really silly, goofy also.
Boredom in school. One.
Yep. One out of God knows how many. Um, I don't know if I did a good job with this thumbnail. Honestly, I'm a little annoyed at myself with the shadows, but eh. I made it in like 40 minutes. I don't know what you expect.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to draw an alien ship. I just made tube. Okay,
Oh, you're
so
doing. Yeah.
yeah, I'm doing the intro for the video.
Yeah, the fic. You're doing the pet.
Yep,
Bleh.
yep. How not to survive your pet death worlder.
Mhm.
Um, okay. So, the permission is slightly weird because it's two authors, and a really funny thing happened. This is also the series I've been very excited about. I also got permission for another series. Oh my god! Guys, this is a great achievement for me. I am going to be teaching somebody what the fuck a podfic is with my series, too. That's gonna be fun. Um, okay, anyway, let me just show off the things real quick. I'm a little sleepy because I went to bed at 4 a.m. This is katydid's comment, and then I got Zayla Sweetbean on Tumblr. Yep, fine, go ahead with me. Thank you. Do you want me a form cat? Yeah, just let Katie know. After I let Katie know about them letting permission, I got permission instantly. It was wonderful. And also, this is why I was freaking out during the Kitsune one. I would. This is literally one of my favorite fics, and it's a fic I've been trying to get Onyx to read for months. It has failed.
I've read the first chapter and almost the second. I just.
Onyx is here. Um, instead of tea, I actually have hot cocoa this time, so that's fun. Let me get to the tags and stuff, though. Rating, teen up audience, Jen. What do you expect? I listen. The moment it's not a Jen fic, it's the moment I tell you guys from the moon top. um, but Izuku and All for One, League of Villains and Izuku, Eraserhead and Izuku. I am trying to keep this short. Oh, this one does have a ship in it. I honestly, this ship is kind of so background, but at the same time not background that I let it. I was like, I don't care. I'll still read this thing. Midoriya Inko and Yaki Toshinori or All Might. Yeah, they get together. Characters! Midoriya Zuku, All for One, Midoriya Inko, All Might, Eraserhead, Shigaraki. I'm just gonna say Shigaraki. League of Villains, Nezu, UA Facility. Additional tags: Alternate Universe, Space. Humans are space orcs. Alternate Universe, no quirks. Aliens. BAMF, Midoriya Zuku, aka Badass Motherfucker. That's what that stands for. Possessive, all for one. Parental Yagi, aka All Might. Parental Dadzawa. Parental Dadzawa? His name is Dadzawa, guys. Good parent, Midoriya Inko. Badass motherfucker, Midoriya Inko. Feral, Midoriya Zuku. That feral is not fucking distinguished enough. It should have feral 3 times. League of Villains shenanigans. Nana Shamora Nana lives. Midoriya Zuko needs help. Now, this isn't a tag that's actually in the fic, but I am gonna state it because it's very relevant to this. Dehumanization is a high topic in this. Like, I don't know if the name How Not to Survive Your Pet Death World or hints at
Very
that or
high. It,
not. Yeah, I don't know if YouTube's gonna like me after. It's not the worst video, or not the worst. It's not the worst with how it does it, but YouTube ain't gonna be happy. But at the same time, YouTube isn't happy with fucking Minecraft half the time, so that's not saying much. Anyway, this is part one of the series, A Guide to Death Worlders, which I which I did get actual permission for the series, so I am podficking all 12 parts of the series, which together I think is like 60 something videos. So, you guys are gonna have fun with that. I also get to draw a bunch of alien designs. Anyway, this is How Not to Survive Your Pet Death Worlder by Katydid and Zayla Sweetbean. Summary. Humans are known across the galaxy for being terrifying, relentless, and savage monsters. Naturally, the alien warlord, All for One, must have one as a pet. The unfortunate alien abduction victim, Zuko Midoriya, is determined to make his captor regret it. Anyway, I'm gonna get on to this fic now. I completely forgot to make this in the intro thing, so you get a few seconds clip here. I get to say made up curse words that I have no idea what they're supposed to mean. So you guys get to hear me say fucking fake curse words. Azuku, Azuku kept his head down and hat tucked over his ears as he hustled along the moving walkway. A fake cloth tail waved behind him. His eyes darted around, taking in everything. An alien space station was a fascinating and overwhelming sight for a boy born on planet Earth. Wires hung overhead from the high, distinct ceiling. A floating spear cast golden light over the colorful canopies of the stalls. Most of the merchants in hollow projectors announcing their wares in different languages, letters, and glowing characters. The air reeked of smoke from the crude, barely functional conveyor belt rolling at his feet. Most of the station had been cobbled together from spare parts. Aliens crowded the moving walkway and flew in semi-transparent pods overhead. Humanoid remained the most common design across the galaxy, but he glimpsed a fluttering silver insectoid the side of his fist, and a green giant ooze in a pod. The flashing lights and clamor gave Azuku a headache. He dodged around a hologram trying to sell him mating enhancement pills. Some things never change, no matter the species. Finally, one of the holograms advertised fresh fruit. Azuku leaped off the conveyor belt and landed in front of a wooden table. Crates piled high behind, a tall post casting silverish light from the orb on top. A blue-skinned man with no less than 10 arms stood behind the table. He wore no clothing from the waist up, only a crude loincloth that was probably a gesture to other species' sensibilities. Not all aliens cared about clothing. It was optional on the space station, but shopkeepers were more likely to cover bits that they feared might offend customers. Or sometimes people just didn't want to answer questions about how theirs worked. Can I see the fruit? Izuku asked, hoping the translator would function properly. The machine was strapped to his ears like a silver headband and meant to translate into Federation Basic. His colony ship only had 3 cheap and faulty translators, and he'd been sent with one of them to buy food. They'd gotten into a battle with the Shizukai Hazashka raiders a few days ago. 2 other members of the Aldera colony were searching for parts to repair their ship. The shopkeeper laughed from his round belly. He did not smile. Azuku had learned that most species only bared their teeth as a sign of aggression, but his tone was friendly. Sure, sure, you can even sample it. My wares are artificially generated. Everything has been approved by the station management. In other words, the management had cleared the fruit as not poisonous to any known species. Only artificial fruit could be held to that high standard. It was very lucky because Azuku could not ask if the fruit was hazardous to humans. He could not admit that he was a human. By habit, he checked that his fake tail still clung to his back of his pants. Most aliens did not know what a human looked like or had exaggerated ideas of their size. Azuku's short stature was another reason he'd been sent. Since humans were not accepted members of the Galactic Federation, he had no legal protection if anyone found out his identity. Humanity had a particular reputation in space. A decade ago, planet Earth had fended off an invasion of unpleasant insectoids with the with a reputation for eating the original inhabitants when they colonized new planets. The savagery of humanity's response had shocked the galaxy. Violence was not new to spacefaring races. Even the Federation's existence did not prevent conflict from breaking out among the many species. But no one had expected a race without proper spacefaring technology to not only win, but crush their enemies. Since then, humans had started venturing off planet, and colony ships cobbled together from enemy technology. Humanity had developed a reputation for being feral, destructive, rageful, incredibly durable, and unforgiving of employers who refused to pay them. This unfortunately happened a lot. This unfortunately happened a lot. Established species like to use newcomers as slave labor. Human objections had gotten violent. At some point, Earth had been classified as a death world. That was bad because people didn't like to deal with death worlders. Azuku thought it was unfair that his species had been categorized as unreasonable when the other people attacked them. But he was not here as a representative of humanity. He was here to buy food for his mother and neighbors. With a closed-lipped smile, he said, "Thank you for the kind offer." He held out his hand. The shopkeeper tossed over a small blue fruit. It looked like a blueberry, except it was a cube. Just because the fruit wasn't poisonous didn't mean it would be edible to human taste buds. He needed to ensure it didn't taste awful before spending the colony's precious money supply. He bit into the fruit. It looked like a blueberry, but tasted more like an apple. It was a tad sour, but it could be blanched out with a bit of sugar. "How much per fruit?" Izuku asked. The shopkeeper replied, "There are an absolute steal at 5 chips apiece. Not only are they delicious and long-lasting, but our scientists believe these fruit have a calming property for a dangerous being like humans." "Shit," Azuku said. He could already feel the unnatural lethargy take over his body. He tried to step back, but his legs wouldn't move. He tumbled over sideways, his fake tail falling off. The fruit hit the ground a few seconds before his body. The translator broke with a crunch against the floor. His hood fell back. Human! The shopkeeper shrieked. We're under attack! Every being for themselves! The entire marketplace emptied in seconds. The massive metal doors closed, sealing off Market 13. No one dared return until the station released sleeping gas into the district, and thence they sent robots. The security bots confirmed the human appeared asleep and not trying to rip anyone's limbs off. Security protocol said that human should be quickly removed from the station, although without harming him because that might provoke retaliation from other roving gangs of humans. However, the station manager had a cousin who dealt in rare pets. The wealthy, powerful, and terrifying All for One had placed a request for a human pet. Not only was the money irresistible, it was even more valuable to obtain a favor from All for One. Bribes exchanged hands, and the pet dealers left with a human boy in a highly secure metal cage. Tomura watched as All for One sauntered into the ship's control room. His master's tentacles curled and uncurled with every step, as if reliving a victorious hunt. Master was in a good mood, Tomura thought, barely bothering to look up from his Game Boy. It was some new technology making waves in the galaxy. The New Alien Times had listed it as one of the top buys of the rotation. Hopefully, Tomura would be able to finish the game before being sent on another mission with his league. Tucked into the corner seat, away from the frantic workers hustling about, Tomura's objective appeared optimistic until he saw All for One's tentacles flare and turn to face him. Ah, Tomura, All for One said, his teeth bared in a smile. Despite years of serving under his master, Tomura still found the habit of smiling with teeth to be creepy. Hello, master. How was your trip? Were you successful? All for One waved a claw hand dismissively. The Gruvas were pathetically easy to deal with. I'm disgusted that anyone in this organization considered them a threat. Tomura looked at the blood speckling the bottom of All for One's feet and tail. Of course they would appear pathetic when faced with a Category 4 Death Worlder. The only other known species to exceed that classification were the Azreks, who died in a freak asteroid accident while killing each other, and the mysterious humans. But the likelihood of All for One running into them was slim. Like the putrid Gashrak maggots of Tomra's homeworld, the humans preferred cowering in dark places, refusing to leave their nightmarish home planet. Rumors of human space travel occasionally bounced between information networks, but it was tricky to tell the truth from exaggeration. Tomura's people, the Dot It, came from a rainforest planet, hence why he'd evolved his thick pelt and flexible tail suited for climbing. To Tomura's embarrassment, he came from a race of prey animals, but the Doti were still considered Class 2 Death Worlders because they formed tight family groups that attacked as a pack. Tomura's family had died in a tragic flash flood, but All for One had adopted him and thus was pack leader now. Without his family's care, Tomura's pelt had grown unkempt, since Dotte fur never stopped growing, but that helped him disguise his embarrassing connection to those savages who didn't even have interstellar travel. Also, there were rumors of All Might looking for Dotte, and Tomura preferred to stay off that fool's radar. Someday, Tomura would help Master crush the ridiculous alien who called himself All Might. The ugly, long-limbed nuisance had been wrecking League plans and schemings for many rotations. Why Alpharon hadn't tracked him down and destroyed him was a mystery to Tomura. However, Master knew best, so Tomura refrained from asking. Despite that disappointment, Alpharon said, I found something even better. Tomura perked up, his tail uncurling in excitement. Had Master finally gotten the new DK Model 5 weapon Tomura had been asking for? Had he crushed a Federation battalion in a humiliating defeat? Or even better, destroyed All Might? I got a pet, All for One said. Tomura blinked, then scratched his floppy ears, sure that he had heard wrong. Pet? Like one of those things you're supposed to care for? Many species desired companionship, including Tomura's own. However, all Alpharon species, the Finks, had never before been considered the nurturing type. Ripping pets apart, sure, but not keeping them. It's a human, All for One said. Around them, the workers froze, every face turning to look at All for One in horror. Uh, human? Tomura asked, desperately hoping he had heard wrong. He scratched at the matted fur on his ear. It had to be what was causing him to mishear. A human, All for One repeated, his tentacles curling in delight. One was found in Federation territory at a marketplace. The ignorant shopkeeper didn't even know what he had until the human randomly collapsed. Collapsed? Tomura's fur prickled in suspicion. Death Worlders didn't collapse, especially not Category 5 Death Worlders. They made other people do that. Apparently, it was so ravenous that it devoured an entire stand. Something in the food poisoned it, but the creature didn't die. A group of pet dealers restrained it before it awakened and continued its killing spree. We're going to meet them in quarter UJS. Although often itchy and unpleasant, in this instance, Tomura was grateful for his massive coat of overgrown fur. It made hiding his skeptical expression much easier. Do you have a recording of the human? All for One twisted the communicator device on his arm, and a hologram of the human appeared, a small hairless form curled into a tight ball. Tomura leaned closer in confusion. Was that the human's prey? Once trained, it will be a valuable asset. I'm confident the doctor can integrate its biology into the new Nomu soldiers to create a stronger fighting force. Regardless, no other species has an alive human in their possession. The small figure in the hologram stirred, lifting up a round, misshapen head. Its features were smashed in like it had been punched in the face. Truly a hideous thing. Maybe that was where the reputation came from, because either the pet dealers had duped All for One, and no one would save their species if that was the case, or humans' reputation had been exaggerated due to their ugly appearance. Either way, All for One would be furious and likely kill anyone in his way. With a nod and false tones of admiration, Tomura complimented his master's newest pet, and then slithered back to his seat. If they had to fly all the way to Quadrant UJS, Tomura was at least going to finish this game before he arrived. The darkness confused Izuku. It was impossible to get his room completely dark on the colony ship. There were too many beeping electronics, and the inhabitants packed 5 or 6 to a room. Someone always had on their data pad. He had sat up and for a groped for a light. His hands touched metal. As soon as he stretched out his legs, his shoes hit metal too. Feeling around, Azuka realized he was in a metal box. Not quite tall enough to stand up or lie straight. Now he remembered the marketplace and that Nertonic fruit. Damn it. The colonists couldn't afford handheld scanners to test food for danger. Although Azuku had far bigger and more immediate problems, he swallowed. Although he did not appear injured, except for a sore back from sleeping on a hard floor, his throat felt parched. His mother would be terrified. Inko hadn't wanted to send Izuku out alone. Everyone had assured her the worst that could happen would be getting kicked out of the marketplace, and security at the station would prevent any violence. Now all of Inko's fears had been vindicated. Izuku would count himself fortunate if he could return home to hear his mother say, "I told you so." Izuku's fingers found a crack of the door, but it was too tight to wedge his nails under. Not that he could rip through a metal wall anyway. The air felt a bit too hot to be comfortable. Izuku found a whirling box in the upper corner, where air must be circulating. His translator was gone. Leaning back against the wall, Izuku tried not to panic, but he was well and truly stuck in here. But his mother would be looking for him. At some point, the enemy had to open the box to feed him. If he wasn't dead already, they wanted him for something, which meant keeping him alive. The longer Izuku remained trapped, the more the walls started to close in on him. He took deep breaths and closed his eyes. Aloud, he recited every word in the dictionary he could remember. A tricked pastime. He planned what he would say to the aliens when they came, assuming they brought translators. A big if. His intellectual speech would be conciliatory. His speech got angrier as time went on. He added a couple unpleasant terms for alien prognosters. Kachan, who could find profanity in any language, had taught all the teenagers on the Aldera ship how to swear in terms that would offend every race. As time passed, the heat in the air became more and more uncomfortable. Izuku's head ached and his stomach growled. Eventually, with nothing else to do, he fell asleep. When Izuku woke up, he was very, very thirsty. Hunger gnawed at his stomach too, but the agonizing need for water overrode all other sensations. Izuku punched the metal box. "Hey! You need to feed me if you don't want me to die." In all likelihood, no one could hear him through the thick walls, but no one would be able to understand him without his translator. If they even cared. The beginnings of panic fluttered in his stomach. What if he'd been wrong, and the aliens didn't want him alive? What if this was a cruel form of ritual execution? Izuku laid back and tried very hard not to cry. He could not waste the water. An agonizing amount of time passed. It could have been minutes, it could have been hours. Eventually, the metal cube hanging overhead spat out a plastic packet of water and a second red packet. With trembling fingers, Izuku ripped off the on the water packet, then drank through the whole. Next, he devoured the second package, which appeared to be a sludge-like smoothie with no flavor. Neither the food nor the water was enough to fill him up. He ripped apart the plastic to look at the last drops. Once finished, horror set in. If the aliens could feed him through a device, then they had no reason to open the door, meaning he would never get a chance to negotiate or escape. Izuku was trapped in here. If the aliens fed Izuku 3 times a day, then 5 days had passed, but he was fairly certain they were feeding him less often, so it could have been 10 days or 15 or longer. At this point, if Izuku's mother hadn't come for him, then either something bad had happened to the ship, or he'd been moved off station, and she couldn't find him. The latter seemed more likely, given how Izuku's crewmates had handled a Shisekai fleet 3 times their size. Izuku knew his mother would never stop looking for him, but he was one kid, and it was a very, very big galaxy. As a child, Izuku had once broken his leg without even crying. He'd been proud of his resistance to pain, especially since the other children called him a crybaby. But he didn't know how to resist this obscene loneliness inside a black box. Asuka didn't know how to be a person. He felt like nothing except an exposed nerve, rotting away and paying in the pang of hunger, thirst, and the dreadful smell. The box had no bathroom facilities, so Izuku had been left to choke on his own waste. He tried to do his business in the corner, but the box was so tiny, there was no way to avoid it. By now, urine coated him. At least his sense of smell had died several meals ago. A tear fell from Izuku's left eye. He'd placed his hands over his face, trying to hold them back, even replaying Earth books and movies in his mind to distract himself. But now he couldn't think of anything except the horror. Another tear slipped out. This was no good. He needed to stave off dehydration so he could be able to fight when they opened the door. If they opened the door. What if Izuku had been sentenced to life imprisonment without a trial, and this metal box would be his final resting place? Mad panic overwhelmed him. Izuku crawled to the door outline, gripping the crack with his weak nails. Please? He begged, his voice raspy and aching from lack of water. Please, I've done nothing to hurt you. Please let me out. We could bargain. My ship would pay for my safe return. Please, please. There was no reply. There was nothing to the people outside. He'd already known that. Other species spoke of humans with disdain or terror, as if talking about plague-bearing rats. So whoever was outside that door, Izuku was not a person. You sklacked! Izuku screamed the worst insult Kachan had taught him. He lunged for the box on the ceiling, banging his head. The pain meant nothing. If he could break the cube and get that gave food and air, then he would be able to open the door. Or then they would have to open the door, or he'd die, which might be better than living like this. Azuka ripped and clawed at the metal with his bare hands. Several nails cracked. He kept beating in a mad frenzy until the cube was slick with his blood. He hadn't he had not even managed to scratch it. Falling backwards, Izuku curled up in a ball and wept like a small child. When Izuku woke up, he could barely move from dehydration. A small clunk announced that the machine had spat out another packet. He did not move towards it. His despair had marinated into ice-cold rage. How dare these people lock him up in conditions he wouldn't wish on his worst enemy? He'd done nothing except try to buy fruit. If they treated him like a monster, then a monster he would show them. He grabbed the packet and wedged it in the door's crack as far as he could slip it. He would no longer eat or drink. If these people wanted him alive, and they must want him alive, or they wouldn't have fed him, then they would have to open the door. When the door opened, Izuku would be ready. Gasha hated guarding the human cage. Even with 5 of his egg brothers standing alongside him, the insectoid Ra had black exoskeleton and 6-clawed fingers, but rumor was that humans could rip straight through body armor. Thus had happened to their sister race, the Fa, who had attempted to invade Earth. The Ra had benefited from their rival's defeat, but did not want to follow the same path. He shifted uneasily, holding his stun pike. His superiors had been muttering ever since the humans had stopped eating. They were worried their buyer would be unhappy if they failed to deliver the creature alive. But this was all above Gasha's pay grade. The pet dealers hired him as muscle because they feared a human, even such a tiny one. Gas suspected his employers had nabbed a baby human, but it made no difference. Even the babies were supposed to have razor-sharp teeth and acidic sweat. A crackle came from the device on Gasha's wrist, and then a hologram of his employer appeared. From our cameras, the human has collapsed. Open the human's cage and pour water down its throat. We need to keep it alive until All for One arrives. Gasha hesitated. Master, are you certain that is wise? His employer snapped. We kept the human under heat that would kill any species except the Death Worlder, and fed it less than half the required food. We've been too cautious. Now it might die. If All for One's new pet fails to survive. Every single person listening shuddered. Suffice to say, the human will be the least of your problems. That convinced Joshka. He ordered his comrades, weapons ready. Then he approached the door, claw over the red button. He hesitated. He reminded himself the human would be starved, dehydrated, and mostly dead of heat. Even a Death Worlder could not remain conscious under such conditions. Gasha pressed the button. The metal door slid back to reveal an empty cage. Gasha's 2 hearts both stopped. He remembered all the legends about humans, their mythological strength, stamina, and ferociousness. Had he missed a story about humans phasing through walls? He swung a claw around, poking. 2 green eyes gleamed in the darkness. The human clung to the ceiling, his bloody fingers digging into the food dispenser. He grinned. Flecks of blood glinted off the very white teeth. One of Glasha's egg brothers fainted dead away. The human dropped down like a heat-seeking missile, legs legs striking Gasha's chest. A hand wrenched away his stun pike and slammed the glowing tip into his chin. The electricity arced of his own weapon, and his last sentence before unconsciousness took him over. Tomura scowled as the pet shop station appeared in the ship window. It was a tiny, ragged metal spear. The front lights blinked in and out intermittently. To an expert's eye, the weapon port was clearly in need of repair. Furthermore, the ship's scanners detected only one life form on board. Besides the cold-blooded insectoids, meaning they only had one pet in stock. Tomra had a lot of trouble believing that his shoestring operation had captured one of the legendary humans. Across the galaxy, humans were known for their ferocity and battle skills. They were said to fight to the death rather than face capture through genetic. Generally speaking, their feet they fled to the distant reaches of the galaxy and joined pacifist religious orders rather than ever dare fight again. The station shuddered and one of the metal components fell off. Tomura's ears twitched under his mop of fur. There was absolutely no way these incompetents had a human. He feared his master's reaction upon realizing he'd been duped. All for One had never taken disappointment well. Tomura asked, hypothetically, what if the dealers had captured one of the human's ugly pets instead of an actual human? Surely you would find great honor in owning something that once belonged to those uncivilized beasts. Don't be ridiculous, All for One said impatiently, still eagerly staring at the picture the dealers had sent him. Only a Deathworlder could possibly be worthy of my affection, or have a chance of surviving it. I've been scouring the entire galaxy for a pet human. Even unworthy fools such as these will be rewarded for finding one for me. Tomura sighed. It scratched his ear. He tried. Now he supposed the idiot pet dealers would all be slaughtered when All for One realized they offered him a fake. Tomura didn't care about the fools, but All for One tended to spread his disappointment around. So Tomura knew he would be in a rough time until his master's temper subsided to normal levels of homicidalness. Even so, he felt a small amount of relief that he wouldn't actually be forced to provide security strong enough to keep a human contained. Tomra spared a very, very tiny amount of pity for the weak, ugly creature that would surely be slaughtered by All for One in his disappointment at getting the wrong pet. The side of the space station exploded, a silent noise in soundless space. What? Already? Tomura mumbled. He had been plotting the station's destruction, but he hadn't expected them to blow up themselves. Them to blow up themselves. All for One frowned. We must hurry. My new pet might get injured. Tomura yelped as his master drove their ship straight at the explosion. All for One ship possessed a laser net designed to steal off a hole in the station and allow them to breathe after they landed. Even so, Tomura made sure he stepped off the ship first and tested the air. Because of the hole, the gravity wasn't working properly. Tomura floated past the small escape pod in the mostly empty docking bay. What had caused the explosion? A faulty part? That wouldn't be surprising in this ancient Dielitrecht. Tomra went to the closest screen and hacked it. Huh. How odd. The log seemed to say that that an explosive had been tossed down the pipes, almost as if the station was under attack from the inside. All for One brushed past him, tentacles shifting as he headed towards the noise. Tomura had been around his master long enough to know long enough to recognize his trembling as excitement. Like his entire species, All for One loved fighting. Murder was a form of affection to the Sphinx, which explained why they were mostly extinct. The noise found them first. The door blasted off its hinges, flying across the bay and clipping Tomra on the nose. He recoiled with a yelp. The ugly bipedal creature stood in the doorway, green hair falling over his face. His eyes burned like twin emerald fires. His face was filthy, and he smelled like filth too. A low guttural growl emerged from his lips. Every bit of fur on Tomura's body stood up. Despite, despite being such a tiny being, the pet was a whole lot more intimidating in person. He bared his fangs as if he wanted to eat Tomura. The pet held one of the ectoid guards in his hands. He had used his fallen enemy as a battering ram to knock open the door. The poor guard twitched. What kind of savage used a living person as a weapon? The pet stepped forward, moving towards the escape pod. As he did so, he revealed a long line of fallen bodies lying in the hallway behind him. One tiny creature had defeated every guard on the ship. Tomura's instincts took over. Everything inside him screamed this creature to be a lethal threat, so he had to protect his pack leader. Tomura pushed off the wall and lunged, flying in the zero gravity. He lashed out with a paw as large as the creature's head. The pet whirled with supernatural speed and struck Tomura in the stomach with his living weapon. Tomura and the guard went flying, crashing into the wall. Tomura pushed the bleeding fool off him, determined not to lose sight of the enemy. Such a forceful blow would surely have knocked the pet backwards, rendering him off balance and easy to capture. Indeed, the pet floated into the wall, but instead of hitting it, he landed sideways with 2 feet planted and backflipped. He was moving too fast, faster than Tomura had ever seen anyone go in zero gravity. He bounced off the ceiling. He darted between the wreckage left from the hole Tomura had lost sight of him. Tomura stared at the ceiling, trying to find his target, but the pet came at him from below, grabbed his legs, and slammed him into the wall. Tomura screamed in pain. Blood dripped down his forehead. The insane fury of those terrifying green eyes made Tomura understand why Earth's failed invaders had all become pacifists afterwards. All for One rubbed his tentacles, his species' way of applauding. Magnificent! This is a true human. None of the inferior pets the other dealers tried to push on me could ever compare. I told you so, Tomura. All for One made absolutely no move to help Tomura, only watched curiously. Tomura was reminded why sometimes he hated his boss. All for One continued. Best of all, since my new pet slaughtered everyone else on the ship, we won't have to pay for it. The monster threw Tomura at All for One like a spear. Naturally, All for One dodged. Tomura screamed as the wall came rushing up again. His sensitive snout slammed into the metal. He floated down in a cloud of his own blood. The creature had used those precious moments to close the gap. Lunging up, he punched All for One's face. All for One only laughed. Finally, a being who can hit with real force. Do you know how long it's been since I felt pain? One of His tentacles went up to touch his face. I think I enjoyed it. The other tentacle wrapped around the pet's arms and dangled him in the air. As one of the strongest beings in the galaxy, Alphorn easily held the pet in place. The blow did not seem to even faze him. The pet bit down on the tentacle holding him. Tomra's stomach twisted in revulsion at seeing the universal taboo against eating another sapient being broken and at the pet's insane jaw strength. Black blood filled the air. Aw, what healthy teeth! All for one cooed, his arms and tentacles wrapped around the little monster, drawing the captive close to his chest. A reddish mist exuded from the two tentacles at his shoulder, a sedative used on prey. No matter how the pet struggled and growled, his eyes slipped closed. All for one handled his pet gently, stroking his hair as if soothing a wild animal. Isn't he adorable, Tomura? See how he won't let go of my tentacle? I think he likes me. Before Tomura finally passed out from the pain, he had just enough awareness to process the horror that, yes, this was a real human. And yes, they were taking the monster home. Amake time! Yep. The Amake is Katydid's absolute wonders. Wrong genre, Savvy, Izuku. I'm heading off to space to have exciting adventures. I'll boldly go where no one has gone before, just like All Might. I'll befriend aliens and save the day. Off run. This skishy bipedal thing is adorable. Izuku, I'm in an adventure story, right? Authors? Subjective beauty standards. Tomura, humans are ugly savage. Izuku, my species created your new Game Boy. Tomura, your squishy face looks less repulsive the longer I glare at you. Violence as affection. All for one. He likes me! Izuku, I am going to rip this alien's tentacles off. All for one. Yep, as expected. He likes me. Tomura, excuse me? Izuku, gnawing on a tentacle. He's gonna turn this guy to calamari at some point. All for one is becoming calamari guy. Okay. Yeah, yeah, this is one of my favorite fics. Like I said, I do have some bloopers at the end, but I want to go over some basic housing. Remember to send recommendations to the fic recommendation zone. And I have 3 series to Podfic. So that'll be fun. I may not record Friday. I was debating if I was going to record again today, but I honestly don't know. This episode went longer than I expected it to, but at the same time, it's 12 chapters and 60k words for the first sector of the series. I should have expected this. You know? Anyway, I think that's all for now. I'll let the bloopers play. Bye! Except for a store back. Except for a store back from slipping on a hard floor. His floor. Okay.
I thought my parents needed me.
I started recording again. It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. I can just cut this out.